Well, you do it fast here. My name's Bob Darrow, and I am alcoholic.
Hi, Bob.
And only through the grace of a God that I was afraid to believe in, that I've accessed and maintained in my life through a simple process in a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. An ability to remain reasonably sponsorable, and a persistent, consistent effort in the primary purpose of helping drunks, and consequently I haven't had a drink or any mind or emotion-altering substance since October 31st, 1978. And that's the big miracle in my life. Please, no horns. Those horns, it's like fingernails on a God, make the new people want to drink. I'm just curious, who's here? How many people, this is your first sober New Year's Eve? Anybody? Wow. Anybody that's they're planning on making this their last sober New Year's Eve? Never know. I'm delighted to be here. This has been a very different year for me. It's been a good year. At times, a very painful year. A year of a lot of loss, a year of a lot of gain, a year of seeing things that I never saw before, a year of living life. And that's what we do, doesn't it? We experience and we go forward. And it's all fueled by something we'd ever expected would happen to us, that we start to tap into something here that we can trust. And it allows us to go out in the world, a world that was at one time just so very frightening to me. And this power that allows us to do for us and live a way that we could never imagine is so miraculous. If you're new here, I want to welcome you. I am delighted you're here. You have no idea what can happen to you here. How could you? You've never experienced what's going to happen to you here if you throw yourself at this thing. But most of us don't. I was a relapser in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was a pain in the butt in Alcoholics Anonymous for a lot of years. I was so full of myself. I only cared about myself. I only listened to myself. I only did for myself. I was only concerned with myself. I was concerned with you somewhat if you had something to do with me, or something you could do for me, but basically I was consumed with myself, and that doesn't make a very good AA member in what supposedly is an altruistic, I'm a self-centered guy in an altruistic, other-centered program, and no wonder I didn't feel like I fit here, because it's all about me. And I relapsed in Alcoholics Anonymous from 1971. I came here as a young kid. I wasn't even old enough to take a legal drink in. And I'd already burnt my life to the ground, and I'm just a kid. And from 1971 to 1978, I was in and out of rooms of AA, in and out of institutions, in and out of jail. Went to some great therapists, did medications, did everything. I was hypnotized. I did everything I could do. I've been saved, dunked, blessed. I've been everything from Ram Dass to Rum Dum in those years. And the end result is in 1978, I tried to take my own life because there was nowhere to turn. There was no hope anywhere. There was no hope in the bottle anymore. I couldn't understand what had happened to me. How could something that at one time in my life was so glorious, I loved getting high. It was spectacular. How could something that was that amazing become as horrid and as pathetic as it had become? The last couple years of my drinking, they were not a party. I'd be 6 months sober and go back to drinking with anticipation of a party, but it wasn't a party anymore. I'd wet my pants. I'd feel sorry for myself. I'd go on crying jags. I remember the loneliness. I remember that horrid, unquenchable loneliness that nothing seemed to change. It didn't help me to go to AA meetings. I felt I could sit in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous with a feeling that it's all of you and then there's me. I was prone to deep depression, prone to bouts of anxiety almost to the point of panic. And then I would drink to get relief from all these things that I would experience sober. Drink with hope. Hope of ease and comfort. Hope of getting free. Remember the early days of drinking when alcohol set you free? Oh my God, I could walk into a junior high school dance and I just wanted to die. I can't talk to anybody. Go out to the parking lot, get some 151 rum and Coke with a couple buddies. I come back into that dance and oh my God, I'm the man. I am the man. And it allowed me to come out and play. It set me free. I didn't understand what it was setting me free from. The bondage of self. There was a great doctor, Dr. Bill Baer, in the 1940s, the mid-1940s, because Alcoholics Anonymous was getting a lot of notoriety they just formed the National Council. Guys like Jelinek and Marty Mann were doing stuff and getting a lot of notoriety for that. The Jack Alexander article had come out a couple years before, Liberty Magazine. We were up on the radar for the Lasker Award, and people were chattering about this new thing called Alcoholics Anonymous, because there'd never really been much hope for people like us. And they asked the American Medical Association, asked this Dr. Baer, Bill Baer, to go and check us out and then make a report on what he thought AA was. So Bill Baer went to a few meetings, read a little bit of literature, talked to a couple of us, and this guy I would love to have met him. He must have been very intuitive, because he gave a description of us that I don't think has been surpassed by any of our membership, and yet he's not a member. And he wasn't an alcoholic, but he was very observant. And what he said is true to this day. He said that Alcoholics Anonymous, they're not crusaders, which some of us do go through a phase. But we're not really. We're not crusaders. We're not, the problem with self-righteousness is self. We're not crusaders. He said we're not a temperance society. I run into people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know that they don't even get it when they say, I used to work around alcohol every day. They'll say things like, oh, how can you do that? You don't have to say anything else. What you're really saying to me is, I've never worked the steps. Because if you work the steps, what it talks about in step 10 would come true for you. But if you've never worked the steps, how can you be around alcohol? I think some of us are under this illusion that my only hope of staying sober is to hide myself away. Maybe AA has some good news, and maybe it has some bad news. The good news is maybe if I went to 3, 4, 5 meetings a day, for the rest of my life, I won't drink. And the bad news, I'm going to live a long time, because I can't imagine life like that. See, I can't imagine life without alcohol. There may be people in this room that can't imagine you can't imagine life without alcohol. Work the steps, and I'll tell you something it'll blow your mind. You can have it in your home or not. It's up to you. You can go out to clubs where they serve alcohol or not. You could work around it, as so many of our fellowship work around it every day. Bartenders, cocktail waitresses. And it will mean no more to you than as if you were selling shoes or the fixtures in a room. Now that, when the hook is in you, and you're obsessed, not with alcohol. I was never really obsessed with alcohol. What I was really obsessed with was the effect. Now, why would I be obsessed with the effect because it's medicine for the big secret. The big secret is what's really wrong with me. See, I don't understand because it doesn't make sense to me. Alcohol gets me in trouble, and so I stop drinking, and I'm kind of in trouble. But I can't tell you why. Because I look better from the outside, but I have a sickness of my being that sort of, for all practical purposes, starts where the bottle ends. That's why I'm a chronic alcoholic. And I don't know that everybody that comes to AA is chronic. I think there are some people that come to AA that have a drinking problem, and sometimes a very severe drinking problem. And when they put the plug in the jug and they commit themselves to never drink again, problem over. Now, I get to the place, because I'm not stupid, I get it, I'm burning my life to the ground. I mean, I'm sleeping on some guy's couch, and there's stupid guys I went to high school with that own homes and stuff. I get it. I mean, I get it. I get it. And I make up my mind, and I mean it. But I'm never going to touch any of that stuff again. And I fare well for a while. And then I start noticing things. Little things. Like, I start noticing the stupid people. Do you know what I mean? It's just a gift, I guess. I just have this heightened awareness. I can see stupid people. You know that kid in that movie, Sixth Sense, who goes around and says, I see dead people? I see stupid people. I mean, I see them everywhere I look. I try really hard to make my life better. And I don't know why, but everything I accomplish or put into place or acquire, the shine just wears off of it very quickly for me. And I don't know why I can't ever seem to be happy and satisfied. And I live in a world of people that seem to be happy and satisfied all the time. You ever been sober, dry, with untreated alcoholism, and go down in the shopping district or the mall or somewhere where there's a lot of people? You'll see something that's crazy. People walking down the street. They're not drinking nothing, smoking nothing, just walking down the street, just happy. What the hell's that about? Happy over, what are you happy for? It's like you want to shake them or something. What the hell's going on? You smoking? What are you doing? They're just happy, just smiling all the time. Happy, happy, happy. Well, when I'm sober, I mean, I could be happy if things weren't so serious. Things are a little serious here. There's crap going on. I'm not sure what it is, but I got to pay attention. Because it's going to go south on me any second. I can tell it. The world is full of people. I don't know what they're up to. They're all thinking something. I don't know what they're thinking, but I suspect it's about me, so you got to watch them closely. I wake up sober. I wake up with that anxiousness. Do you ever just wake up and you got that feeling like, I don't know what it is. But it's like a sense that something bad's going to happen today. I don't know what that is, but I just know it's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And do you ever notice how when you approach life as if something bad's going to happen, you kind of magnetize yourself to that crap. You attract all the negative stuff. And by the end of the day, you're worn out because you've been on high alert, watching out for it all day long. Go to one of those late night, 8:30 meetings, walk in there. It's a, hey, Bob, good to see you. How you doing? Hanging in there. I'm worn out. I haven't even done nothing. I'm worn out. Just considering the possibilities wears me out. I angst up and angst up and angst up, and then something happens to me where I seem to implode. And I sink into I'm a depressive. I sink into these deep depressions. I don't understand them. I started seeking answers in psychiatry. My mother was a therapist. With her help, I even worked in the field for a little while. I was actually a very good counselor right up to the day. I was working at a drug treatment center Or if the day I lost the job for being drunk on the job, they don't like that. I could sit in bars and quote Albert Ellis and Carl Jung and things. It was magnificent. Why would I do that? I bet you there's people in this room that do that. Why do you do that? Why do you think? Because my ego thinks that knowledge is power, right? I think if I know, but knowledge isn't power at all. Matter of fact, I think there's a hell on earth. It's being in that place where you know, but you don't have the power to be what you know you need to be. You know, where you can see it. You can see the guy you need to be. And I can't be it. I can for a day or two. I'm like one of those balloons that you blow up and then let go. I can go like crazy for a while, but I always run out of gas because lack of power is my dilemma. And I don't know what's wrong with me. Therapists don't know what's wrong with me. I've been diagnosed a lot of different things. I have self-diagnosed myself with a lot of different things. At one time, I was reading a book, and there was a character in this book that had syphilis in the advanced stages, and it made him crazy. I remember, and he had things where he'd do weird things and couldn't remember them, and then sometimes he'd fly off the handle in these insane rages, and other times he'd be almost catatonically withdrawn from life. And I'm reading that, and I'm going, I got syphilis. Oh, my God. I got syphilis. It went to my brain. Oh, who would have known, you know? I mean, another time I thought I was convinced I had a brain tumor. It would have made my whole life make sense. And I didn't. And I think most alcoholics, because we're a tad self-involved and self-focused, we have a tendency to be hypochondriacs a little bit. Anybody in here besides myself ever had imagined you were dying of some terminal illness? Yeah, right. I think alcoholics rehearse more glorious deathbed speeches than any demographic on the planet. They're always wonderful. We're the people that you didn't really like that much. All of a sudden, in the middle of this speech, they become properly ashamed of themselves. Oh, I just love that stuff. I was talking to my doctor not too long ago. It was funny. We had a funny conversation about he kids me about my. I joke about it today. I'll go in. I'll say weird things to him, like, "You say, how you doing? I think that brain tumor's back." And we laugh about it. And we started talking about how this propensity to imagine stuff inside your head, right? And I said to him, I said, am I wrong, or is there one illness that a hypochondriac never imagines he has? And he said, what would that be? Alcoholism? I don't think an hypochondriac ever just go, oh, I think it's alcoholism. No, I can't imagine that. Everything else, but I don't think he would ever imagine he had alcoholism. Look how the great lengths some of us go through not to be alcoholic. When it says in the beginning of chapter 3, most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. Oh my God, I'd rather be anything. I'd rather be a drug addict. At least there were rock stars that were drug addicts. There's some panache in that, for God's sakes. There's not a panache in being a wet pants wino. I'll be a mental health case. That's not so bad. They give you pills if you're a mental health case. I've never met a pill I didn't like. I'll be a mental health case. But I don't want to be an alcoholic. I had a couple uncles that were alcoholic. They're pathetic. I know about alcoholics. They're pathetic. I don't want to be an alcoholic. I'll be anything else. And then even after several treatment centers, after I've gone out and to control and enjoy my drinking and failed and got sober and went out again and failed, and I start to see the cause and effect, and I become intellectually bludgeoned into some acceptance that I must be an alcoholic. Even then, I'm a very special kind of alcoholic. not really like you people. See, I live with a disease of separation. And the ism is I separate myself. And that's what the ego does. It separates me from it's. See, I've always had too much of me between me and you, and too much of me between me and God. That's why in the vision for you it says, we'll know a loneliness such as few do. And I've gone through most of my life. I drank to overcome that. Because alcohol at one time, when alcohol worked, it would set me free and it could connect me with people and gave me a sense of camaraderie. I mean, I remember the early days of drinking. I ran with a gang of guys. We'd get drunk. I'd feel so connected to them. We'd say things to each other like, I'll die for you, man. Oh, man, I mean, that's amazing. Then you sober up and you're just the guy, it's just you alone against the world. And I loved it. But what happens is in the progressive nature of alcoholism is that effect diminishes in time, doesn't it? I mean, for God's sakes, if I could still get lit up from drinking like I did when I first started, I don't think I'd have ever quit. And I'd have paid the price. I'd be willing to go to jail once in a while to have a party like that. I'd be willing to have lost jobs and broken relationships to party like that. What brought me to my knees and brought me into Alcoholics Anonymous in a state of hopeless desperation was that there was no more relief in the bottle and the bag anymore. And that was the worst blow of all. You know, I sacrificed a lot to try to keep that party going. And after I sacrificed everything decent in my life, and it was all gone, then alcoholism pulled the plug, and now I can't even get the ease and comfort anymore. I don't even get free. And that's the worst blow of all. And when it says in a vision for you, it says we'll get to a place where we can't imagine life with it, and we can't imagine life without it. Where it calls it the jumping off place, the place where we wish for the end. And I did. I got to that spot where my drinking had become so pathetic and so horrid and so depressing, I can't imagine life like this anymore. And all the delusions were smashed. You know, you can go for a couple years with hope. What's the hope? That you're going to get back on your feet financially? Nah, I don't even care about that. The hope is that I can party like I used to party. I can get that ease and comfort. I can get that freedom. And once that hope is smashed, and you know a bitter, bitter truth is that no matter what you drink or take, the way you feel right now is the best you're ever going to get. Oh my God. That is a hopeless condition of mind and body. And I can't imagine because I can't imagine drinking going on like I'm going on. And I know I've tried, for God's sakes, to roll it back to the old days. I've mixed every drug and chemical. I've worked out. I've done everything I could do to jumpstart that party like it was in the old days. And it don't jumpstart. And you know, millions of us try to roll it back. And once it's turned on you, there's never been a recorded case of a chronic alcoholic that can turn it back to the way it was when you're 17, 18 years old again. Most of us died chasing smoke, chasing a delusion we will never, ever catch. And I couldn't live with it, and yet I can't live without it either because I'm so messed up sober. See, I'm an alcoholic. You take the alcohol out of my life, what I'm left with is the ick. You know, it's just this squirmy, don't fit anywhere, depressing. You know, I stop drinking, I just get my life and my horrid, remorseful past and my anxious, fearful future just on me. And I can't get them off, like that creature in that movie Alien that attaches itself to your face, just right here. I can't get me off of me. And my God, I yearn for freedom so bad, but there's no more freedom in the bottle anymore. So I'm at that place, that jumping off place. You can't live with it. You can't live without it. The book says we'll wish for the end. So I came to one morning in a park on the north side of Pittsburgh in a state of hopelessness, and there's no relief anywhere for me. And I'd had a physical that past year. And this doctor, I told the doctor I thought I had a brain tumor, and he gave me a complete physical and knew I didn't have a brain tumor. What I had was an ulcer and a hemorrhoid. Anyway, and the doctor said, I was a young kid in my 20s. He said to me, he said, "You're an alcoholic, and you keep drinking, it's going to kill you." And then he said, "But it might take 5 more years." And I came to in that park that morning, and I thought about what he said, 5 more years. 5 more years of this. 5 more years of this crying jag, pathetic, self-pitying, depressive drinking. 5 more years of this freaking loneliness. 5 more years of this. And something snapped inside me. I made the decision to kill myself. I'd rather do it. I'd rather do it. I'd rather get it over with. And I remember a feeling of relief in the decision. Like it was like as if I'm going to get this over with. But I couldn't kill myself because I'm a coward. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid that maybe I won't die. If I jump off this bridge, maybe I won't die. Maybe it's not high enough. Maybe with my luck, I'll end up paralyzed from the neck down. And because I'm in my 20s, I'll lay in a charity hospital bed for 50 years. And I can't even get a drink sober. 50 years. Listen to my head work me over. Tell me what a worthless piece of crap I am every single day. As members of AA parade their newcomers through the ward, and I get to hear them say, "Well, this is Bob, and this is what happens to you when you don't work our wonderful 12 steps." You know, I'm paralyzed. I can't even give them the one finger salute. You know, the book says, talks about what happened to me. It says before we ever come to believe in God or AA or anything, it says you'll come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of your life as you'd been living it. And then it says something very interesting. It says you'll be at a place where there's nothing left. There's no hope anywhere. There's no new relationship, new job, new town, new medication, new anything. There is nowhere to turn. You've run out of everything you could grab onto to put between you, and there you are. And now everything you've been running from, and it's almost like all the emotions and all the guilt and all the unresolved stuff I'm running from, it's like I've been putting it in the bank in a high interest account, and it's all due. It's all due. And there's nowhere to go. And I couldn't kill myself, and I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't even my idea. I just got so sick. Something used to happen to me after because I drink. When I drink, I don't eat. I'm not against eating. It's just I can come up with a little bit amount of money every day, and I'm not going to. If it's a choice between McDonald's or another bottle of Richard's Wild Irish Rose, McDonald's loses every time because I need the medicine more than I need the food. And so I get real sick. And I got those bad shakes, and I got sores that don't heal because I don't eat. And I guess I have some sort of severe vitamin deficiency. And I ended up in this detox in Las Vegas because I got to that place. I was trying to go to California, and I was just coming through Vegas on my way to California. But by the time I came through Vegas, I got to that place where my nerves are just shot. And I desperately need the relief from the medicine, and I can't keep it down anymore. If you've ever been there, that is a horrid place to be, where you need to keep a drink down so desperately, and it just keeps coming back up again, and you can't keep it down. And if you don't keep it down, you're going to fly apart. You feel like you're going to die. And I was at that place, and I could not keep it down, and my stomach, I'm throwing up blood as I do often when I get into severe vomiting, and I ended up in a detox through a guy from the Metropolitan Police Department helped, and a bunch of other circumstances, and a guy that was a security guard. They got me to somehow got me into this hospital, and Ended up in there, and I was a mess. They had me on IVs because I hadn't been eating for a long time. I looked like I weighed about 170 pounds. I actually only weighed about 148 or 150. You could leave your fingerprint on me, because I was so bloated. I was in bad shape. And they had to throw my clothes away because they were just trashed. I mean, the stench from them was unbelievable. And they had bags full of clothes from other people that had gone through there. And I got to pick out, they were giving me clothes out of the throwaway bags. And I had a stunning outfit. I had check pants and check shirts, and the checks don't match. I didn't know years later that'd become popular. I didn't know that. I felt strange wearing that, but like Madras. They had Madras pants. No wonder somebody threw them away. I mean. And after they cleaned me up and they got me stabilized physically, they let me go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous in that detox. And I met a man there who the 3rd of December of this year died. He was God's instrument. His name was Dick Toussaint. He was a great warrior in Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a trench rider. He was a soldier. And above everything, he was a servant. Alcoholics Anonymous is a funny place. It's unlike any other organization on the planet. In AA, you come in a big shot and you work your way up to servant. Everywhere else, it's the other way around. You come in, you sweep the floors, hopefully someday you're a manager. The highest you get here is servant, and this man was a servant. He was involved in everything in Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a 5%er. And the reason I call it 5%ers, I heard a trustee actually, in 1980, I went to my first area service conference as a GSR. And I heard this trustee say something, I don't know if it's true, but it's probably ballpark true. They said that 95% of all the 12-step work and service in Alcoholics Anonymous is done by 5% of the people. Dick Toussaint was a 5%er. And then he went on to say, that 5%, as long as the people stay in that 5%, they almost never, ever, ever drink again, as long as you remain one of the 5%ers. And Dick was a 5%er. He was a past delegate. He was one of the guys that started the Samaritan House. He started a bunch of meetings. He was involved with some of the clubs, the retreat, on and on. He was one of the H&I guys. He brought the meeting into the detox. I didn't understand any of this because I'm so needy and so full of myself, and everything in me is clamoring for help. I don't understand people who help others. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't know that what I was seeing was the cream of the crop here. To me, it looked like these people just don't have a life. I mean, what are they bringing meetings in here? And I found out they had a tremendous life. I mean, Dick lived in this huge house up on the hill with tennis courts, and he had 2 brand new Cadillacs, and he had an amazing business. And I still, for a long time, why would he come to try to find a guy like me? The same reason I go into those places a couple times a week looking for a guy like me. He knew something I didn't know. And I went up to him. I watched him. He came in there twice a week. I watched him. You never know who's watching you. I'm telling you, the best thing you can have, you want to be a good example of Alcoholics Anonymous at all times, because there are people watching you and you don't know it. And I watched him. As they came. I'd peek down the hall and I'd hear the AAs coming. And I watched him. And you know what I saw? They laughed a lot. I remember he was with a bunch of his sponsees, and he had a habit of making fun of them, which I would find at times painful years later. He had a tendency of goofing on them and laugh like, he thought their problems were just wonderful. And I remember watching him laugh one day and just carried on, and he's cutting up with these guys. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy's really having a good time sober. As a matter of fact, he looks like he's having a better time sober than I had back in the good old days when drinking worked. And I dared to hope. See, all I know about abstinence is it just feels like I'm doing time. All I know about abstinence is a lonely, depressive state that I tolerate for sustained periods of time because I'm not stupid and I get that I'm ruining my life for God's sakes and I'm trying here. But that's all I know of abstinence. But he had something that was different from my experience in abstinence, and yet I listened to him. And he talked about thoughts and emotions and experiences that you can't read in a book, man. You had to be there. I remember listening to him talk about his suicide attempt, and he's saying stuff that you had to have been a guy in trying to kill yourself to be. He can't make this crap up. And he was like me. I mean, I was getting it. He was like me. But something had happened to him because he was having a really good time. And I dared to hope, is it possible that what happened to him could happen to me? See, I didn't think it. I was afraid to believe because I was at a point in my life where I didn't even allow myself to get my hopes up about anything because every time I did, you know what happens. That's why the last couple of years of my drinking, I didn't even try to get back on my feet anymore. You know, there were years where I would relapse. I'd burn my life to the ground, and then I'd get a good job, and I'd get a girlfriend, I'd get back in a band, the last couple of years, I don't even try that anymore. What's the point? Because I know the truth. Before the year's out, I'm going to burn the sucker to the ground anyway. Why should I even get back up? So I'm not big on hope. But I dared to hope, and I remember thinking, I'm going to ask this guy to sponsor me. And the minute I thought that, I got scared. I was afraid he's not going to want to sponsor me. I mean, I wouldn't. See, I was always afraid that if you knew about me what I knew about me, you'd feel about me the way I feel about me, and that would not be good. So I keep people like this. And I thought, I was afraid, and so I couldn't just ask him to sponsor me. I had to sweeten the pot a little bit. I went up to him, and I'm so scared, and so I'm shaking, and I said to him, would you please sponsor me? Then I said, if you do, I'll do everything you ask me to do. And, you know, they actually have things they want you to do. I mean, it's a lot of things, actually. And none of them seem like a good idea until after you do them. Matter of fact, there's none of AA that looks like a good idea. I've watched thousands of men and women come into AA in the hopeless despair I was in 1978. I've never seen one yet look at the 12 steps and go, oh yeah, that would work? Yeah. Nobody says that. You don't even know that the steps work until you do them. Matter of fact, most of us just do it because we don't think it's going to work. This isn't going to help. I mean, I don't need those steps, not that. I mean, you want to give me a set of steps. Give me step 1, make Bob's police record disappear. That'd help a lot. Give me the give Bob $1,000 step. That'd spiritually enhance me for a while. The bring her back properly ashamed of herself step. That would be a good step. The make my parents realize how wrong they had been about me step. That's a good step. No, we don't got that. When you look at the steps and you've never done them and you're just new, oh, they look horrid, don't they? They look like punishment for being a bad drunk. Like the first step that really jumped out on me was step 3. Well, it had the G word in it. Turn your will and your life over to the care of God. I remember sitting there go, oh no. See, I knew about God. You guys were big on God. I get it. You're big on God. Well, good for you. I knew about God. It's a religious upbringing. I knew God judged me He could see in the dark, which is not good. Some of my bestest fun in the dark. He can read my mind. He can read my mind. That is hideous. And he judges me for what I think. This is unbelievable. Oh, that's just horrible. I had a nun one time. This nun, she's kind of a young nun. She used to say, "You must be pure of thought, word, and deed." I swear she'd look at me. And I'd go, "Yes, I'm a little kid. I'm just a little kid. Yes, sister." And then I'd start imagining what she looked like naked under her habit. I mean, oh my God, I'm going to go down. I'm in hell now. It's too late for me. There's no help for me. I'm just too bad at being good, and I'm too good at being bad. There is not any hope for me here. He could read my mind. I mean, that's just so, I used to try to think good thoughts. I can do that for about 5 seconds, maybe. You catch me to this day, you catch me on a bad spiritual hair day, I can drive down the street. I'll kill him. I'll do her. I'll kill him. I got 2 movies that run in my head, sex and violence. I'm going to hell for both of them, you know what I mean? So you tell me, turn your will and your life over to the care of God? Oh no. Oh no. And then the one that just made me absolutely insane was the amends. I remember sitting in a meeting, some self-righteous guy pounded the table and he said, "And I paid back every single dime I've ever taken in my life." I was sitting there going, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I stole as a way of life. I'm the guy I fancied myself a gangster until the police explained I was really a public nuisance." Well, I'm not a big thief. I'm a squirmy little pathetic thief. I'm the guy that runs out of money in the bar, so I watch everybody, and when you go to the bathroom, I steal your change and drink your drink and move to another part of the bar. I'm that guy. I'm the guy who steals your purse, breaks into your car, takes your 8-track player or whatever I can find in there. That's the guy I am. I'm a pathetic little opportunist. And that was a way of life for me. It's just too much. I think there was probably 3 years at least in my life where I supported a 2 to 3 pack a day cigarette habit by doing a scam, and I did it all over the eastern United States. I'd go into a nice restaurant, gas station, bar, and I'd look dirty. I was long-haired, a long beard, and I'm not unkempt. And I'd go up to the cigarette machine and I'd pretend like I'm putting money in there, and then I'd go crazy and bang on it and yell and scream, "This machine rip!" And I'd just keep making noise until the manager would come and open it up and give me a pack of cigarettes. I'd do that 2-3 times a day. And you said, "And we paid it all back." Are you kidding me? Oh, God, I can't even imagine making amends to my mother and father. I loved my mother and father. I loved them. They loved me. I destroyed them. I just ruined them. And they were good people. I remember hearing people talk about their horrid parents. God, I wish mine were. I wouldn't have felt so bad about what I did to them. But they loved me. My mother and father sacrificed for me. They put me in one of the treatment centers. They put me in, this is no exaggeration, the cost of what it cost them was the price of a house for me to go in that one treatment center. They sent me to the greatest psychiatrist on the planet. And the worst thing I did to them is I kept giving them hope, because I'd get back up on my feet and I'd make the promises. Then 6 months later, I'd just smash it again. And that's brutal, to do that to someone who loves you. And so what happened after the last few years, my mother and father would not talk to me. They would not take my phone calls. I was not welcome in their house. I found out later from my sister that even though they had physically cut me out of their life, I guess they couldn't completely cut me out of their heart, because my mother was seeing her own therapist now and taking medication. And my father slept 15 and 16 hours a day. They were recluses in their own house, and they had been very altruistic. They were involved in a lot of things. They belonged to a country club. They belonged to a couple charitable organizations. They were involved in the community. The last few years of my drinking, they just holed up in the house, and they wouldn't even go out because they were just so tired of people asking them questions about me. And they were so ashamed. And I did that to them. It seemed like if you were to, the day I got sober, if you would have asked me about all the people that had ever loved me, every single one of them got their heart broke. Matter of fact, if I'd have died, if I'd have committed suicide on my last drunk as I wanted to do, and I would have been successful, you couldn't have got 4 pallbearers to come and want to carry my casket. Matter of fact, by the time alcoholism kills most of us, most of the people we loved are kind of glad we're dead because they hate us. They don't mean to, but they hate us because we hurt them so deeply. My mother, when I was my first pass in amends, eyeball to eyeball with my mother and father, I was talking to my mom. My mom loved me, and my mom started to cry because she admitted to me that for some time she just wished I would die. And then she wouldn't have to jump when the phone rang in the middle of the night. She wouldn't have to wonder. And I did that to them. So I get sober in 1978, and I get a sponsor, and I get a home group. And I tell you, if you're new and you want to be left alone, do not get a sponsor in a home group, because they just start butting into your life. I mean, it's like spiritual license to be Butt-inskis into your life. And they do. They just start, people in AA will come ask you questions like, so how's your mom and dad? Oh, I haven't seen them in years. Oh, so you need to make amends to them, right? No, that's not it at all. Well, you're not talking to them, they're not talking to you? No, we need to make amends to your mom and dad. I said, listen, you don't understand. It's too late for that. A couple years ago, maybe before I threatened my dad's life, before they cut me out of their, maybe, but not, it's too late now. I did that, I understand. I'm not trying to blame anybody anymore. It's just too late. And I was willing to resolve myself that I did that, that's the way it's going to be. And people in AA are funny, It's like they look like they're listening to you, and then when you're done talking, they start saying things as if they didn't hear anything you just said. You want to explain it to them again, but it's a waste of time. They say, well, yeah, but here's what you're going to do. You're going to have to make amends to your parents. I didn't want to, just tired of arguing with them. This woman says to me, she says, you need to start calling your mom. I said, listen, they won't take my calls. These people said something to me that was startling. They said, well, don't call collect. Now, it's a pathetic insight into my own egotistical self-entitlement that would have never occurred to me. Don't call collect. That's a pathetic thing for me to tell you that would have never occurred to me. You had to tell me that. Don't call collect. It was a novel idea. Remember the first time I called? My mother answers the phone, and when she hears my voice, she got very upset. She said, what do you want? And then she got a little panicky. She said, you're not back in Pennsylvania again, are you? I said, no, Mom, I'm in Nevada. I'm in Las Vegas. She said, in Las Vegas? Well, the operator didn't ask me to pay for the call. I said, no, Mom, I paid for the call. She shrieked. She went, you paid for the call? She couldn't believe it. It was like so out of character for me, right? It was like startling to her. And that wasn't me, that was you. You showed me how to repair a broken relationship that I believed was unredeemable. And I started following your actions, your suggestions, and taking the actions you suggested. And I had the book says there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. Years. It was years paying them back. It was years acting differently before they started to even believe a little bit that maybe I had changed. And that's right. I mean, if you had someone that you loved and they broke your heart every time you saw them, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm sober, loan me 100, I mean, you'd be a little skeptical too. And they were skeptical for a while, as they should have been. And I got to make a wonderful restoration with them. My dad died when I was about 6 years sober, and I tell you, I wish I would have had more time with him, because as a result of the 8th and 9th step, our relationship had become just fantastic. I miss him a lot. And my mom died when I was about 17 years sober, and I got to take care of her. She moved to Las Vegas, and she had cancer, and by the time she died, she was 50 pounds. It was unbelievable. I could just lift her up like this off the bed to change her linens and change her diapers and stuff. She withered. She was a very proud woman too. She just withered away. It was very sad, but it was such a privilege to be able to go there. I remember realizing in the middle of trying to take care of my mom that this was an aspect of my 9th step that I had never realized until I was in the middle of it. That this was another piece of it. And I would have told you going into it, well, yeah, I've made all my amends to my parents. And in a sense I did, I guess. But this was like a new level, me getting to help my mom go home. And I sat with her 23 hours until she took her last breath. The tenacity of human life. It's unbelievable. I kept telling her, Mom, go. Dad's waiting for you. Go, go. She hung on. The tenacity of human life. And I got to sit with my friend Dick, who just died on December 3rd. He was such an amazing servant the last 2 years of his life. He had diapers, and we'd have to clean him up. And it was tough. I don't like cleaning up crap. But we did it. I did it and I was honored to do it. And we'd change his diapers, and we'd stick him in a wheelchair. You had to lift him into the wheelchair, and we'd take him to meetings. And in a meeting, people would fawn all over him. All the young girls would just come up and just throw themselves all over him. He'd just sit there and smile. And he loved it. And the lights would come on. And then we'd take him back, put him to bed, come and get him the next day. And I told him at one point, I said, as long as I'm breathing and I got guys I sponsor, you're never going to sit in this place, this care center by yourself. And we took good care of him. And it was his turn to receive. He'd been such an amazing giver for so many years here. And Sunday, a dozen of us, we took his ashes and we spent a whole day going to every house he ever lived in, the places he worked, the places he went to meetings, and put some of his ashes in each one of those places. And we all had a little bit of sharing about our memories of his spirit. And we put his ashes where his spirit was still strong. And I don't think anybody ever dies. I think their body goes. I know my dad died almost 30 years ago. And I'll tell you something, his spirit is still within me. I don't think anything ever really dies. It just becomes different. And these men and women in my home group when I was new, they were such servants. And I didn't know that I fell into a hotbed of AA fanaticism. And these people had really bought the primary purpose. They believed, see, most of us come in here, our primary purpose is ourselves. And our finances, and our jobs, and our relationships, and how we look and feel. And I fell into the hands of people where their primary purpose in their life was to set themselves aside and help others. And they started hammering me when I was new. They wanted me to do what they did. They wanted me to take meetings back into the detox. They wanted me to sign up for the 12-step list. They wanted me to sign up to go into the new meeting that was starting in the state penitentiary. They wanted me to always be looking for new guys, help others, help others, help others. And it just, I am so vacant and so desolate and so awful here that I need more help than any of these people. I said to this guy once, he's pushing me. I said, don't you think, for God's sakes, I should work on myself first? And he rears back and he says, work on yourself? You've done quite enough of that. Stop it. And I thought, well, actually, I have done quite enough. I've done a lot of that, actually. I mean, I don't know about you. It was the center of my life for decades was me. Making me better, me happier, me more satisfied, me more comfortable. I mean, if I could have been fixed, I'd have been fixed by now, for God's sakes. And he said, forget yourself. Bill Wilson says in the beginning, in his story, he says, there's a price must be paid. It means the destruction of self-centeredness. And the only way you can do that, or even attempt to get it, and even if you destroyed it, it would grow back like a bad tumor by tomorrow. But what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is we take actions of other-centeredness. We take actions of self-abandonment. Even though my sponsor doesn't care if I got to go on that 12-step call, I got to go do that commitment, I got to go to that detox. He doesn't care if I'm thinking about myself the whole time I'm doing it. I still have to do it. And a funny thing happens if you take the actions of an other-centered person consistently and long enough, you start to become an other-centered person. My grand sponsor was a guy named Chuck Chamberlain, and Chuck said, you have to act your way into this. And that's really true. And I started working through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and what an amazing journey. And somewhere in that process, a God came into my life that I was afraid to believe in. And it's time, as from a result of taking these actions, I started to know something that is so sweet. I know that this God loves me. I don't know why. He's got evidently questionable taste. But he loves me. You know how I know that? By the evidence expressed in his hand in my life. It's apparent. It's experiential. It's not theoretical. God's done amazing things in my life, just to the extent that I let him. And that's the whole point of Alcoholics Anonymous, is that I got to enter into this process of the steps that's designed to reduce me down enough to allow this power to flow into my life. See, I couldn't get it. And I remember in a jail cell up in Maine, I did something just horrible that just terrified me, and I was so ashamed of myself. And after I found out what I did, they took me back to my cell. And when the guard left, I fell down on my knees in that hard cell floor. And with sobbing, with tears in my eyes, I begged God, don't ever let me drink again, please. And there's not a more sincere prayer ever said than that prayer. I got drunk the day I got out. Why? There's too much of me between me and God. God was trying to help me. I'm so full of myself, there's no room for anything else, not even his grace. And so I started entering into this program of self-reduction and self-abandonment. And my life started to change. I heard my sponsor tell a story in 1980. And I'm going to share this and close with it. I share it sometimes because I don't think there's a better analogy for Alcoholics Anonymous I've ever heard anywhere. He says that when you hit a bottom, as some of us do, and you get to that hopeless state of mind and body, it's very much like being shipwrecked at sea. And you're out in the middle of the ocean, hundreds and hundreds of miles from land, and you're all by yourself, totally alone, and you're treading water, and you know in time you're going to die. and it's frightening. And just about the time you don't know how much longer you can tread water, you look up, and across the water, there are these two goofy-looking guys, and they're just sitting on top of the water, and they're kind of moving towards you, and they're pretending they're rowing or something. They're making these weird motions, and there's not even anything there. They're acting like they're in a boat, but you can't see no boat. There's nothing there, and they just kind of come up to you. And they row up to you, and they say, "My name's Bill, my name's Bob. We're from Alcoholics Anonymous. We have God and these beautiful 12 steps that will solve all your problems." And you're drowning, but you're not an idiot. You look, there's nothing there. I mean, it's nothing. You guys are wacko. Get away. Leave me alone. And they row off. About the time you're going to drown, over the horizon comes this big chrome ocean liner. It says, "Treatment Center." And they got psychiatrists and psychologists and biofeedback technicians and vocational rehabilitation specialists and members of the opposite sex and medications and dietitians and group therapy. Imagine 40 people talking about me. Oh my God, group therapy. It's just spectacular. And you know that a person of your depth and complexity will need all of that. That the two goofy guys in the invisible boat, they can't possibly help you. They don't even have a doctorate degree between them. These people are what I need. And you get on the boat, and it's amazing, man. You're going to Father Martin movies. You're hearing the lectures from the doctors and the psychiatrists about alcoholism. You're puffing up with knowledge and information, man. You feel, I get it now. I get it. 28 days later, full of knowledge and false hope, over the side. And there you are, treading water with your $15,000 big book and your graduation chip. As the ocean liner heads off to sea, and then there you are. Oh man, you don't know how much longer you can do this. And about the time you can't do it no more, here come those two assholes in that invisible boat. Oh my God. Rowing right up to you, pretending like they're rowing. "My name's Bill, my name's Bob, we're from Alcoholics Anonymous. We got God and these beautiful 12 steps, solve all your problems." You go, "Oh God, you got nothing. It's an illusion. Stop it." But you're so worn out and you're dying. And if you're lucky, they pull you on board. And there you are, sitting on top of the water. You can't even see what's holding you up. As some of us sit in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous at 10, 12 months, 14 months sober. And the truth is, we've never been sober this long since the first time we ever drank. And we don't really know what's holding us up because we had gone to meetings before and drank. We don't know what's holding us up. And you say to them, "My God, what, sitting there, what do I do?" And they say, "Row." "Row? What are you talking about, row? There's not even any oars. There's not." "Oh, just go like this." "Oh, no, you've got to be, no, just go like this." You go, "Oh, I just hope nobody sees me." And you start rowing this boat, and a funny thing happens. The more you row it, the more substantial it becomes, and it starts to materialize as a result of your actions. And it gets so solid, you can build a life in there. You can raise a family in there. You can travel the world in that boat. You can pick up countless other drowning men and women. You can raise kids in that boat. You can have a life in that boat. But unfortunately, after many years, and I know there's people in the room that are at this place, the old ego returns, and with it comes a sense of entitlement. And with the entitlement comes a diminishment of actions. And now I don't have to row anymore. I had a guy recently, I was asking him to come and do, this guy was sober over 30 years, come and do some 12-step work at a treatment center with me. He said the most horrible thing it scared me what he said. He said, "Oh, I don't do that anymore. I've done a lot of that. Why don't you get newer people to do it?" I almost said to him, "You haven't done anything in at least 3 years that I know of. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about?" you impersonate a person who relapses long enough, you'll become that person. And I've been going to a meeting at a Skid Row detox in Las Vegas twice a week for over 35 years. I'll tell you, there's not a week that goes by. I usually don't meet at least one person who drank with over 10 years. I've met people that drank up to 45 years. And a week before they drink again, they don't ever think they're going to drink again. And the only thing that's happened to them is they stopped taking the actions that at one time they took, because the ego's returned and they have a sense of comfort and entitlement. And a week before they drink again, they don't think it's coming. They got everything they'd ever want in life. But it's alcoholism. And it has nothing to do with how my recovery is not measured by how I feel. It's not measured by how many decimal points in my bank account. It's not measured by my length of years. It's only measured by the actions I take today. Today's alcoholism is a whole new piece of business for me. Yesterday's alcoholism and yesterday's recovery have no influence today. It's a whole new ball game. And so I do certain things every day without compromise. I have a sponsor who is very, I don't know, he's been at times very mean to me. He's been very nice to me the last few years, and I asked him one time, do you have like some kind of terminal illness? You're trying to get into heaven? What's with this niceness? And he just laughed. And he's nice to me because I'm in the deal. He's real tough if he's not sure you're in the deal. He can be a tough taskmaster. But if you're showing up every day and you're sponsoring guys and you're working with people and you're going to meetings and you have commitments and you're trying to work the steps and you're buying the whole package. He's a great sponsor. He's a terrible sponsor if you don't want to do anything here. And so am I. The guys I sponsor, I'm very proud of the men I sponsor. They're doers. If you want, you got to be a 5%er to have a guy like me in your life, or I'm going to make you so miserable you're going to go get a different sponsor. Right? And I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. Your alcoholism's going to do that for you. I'm here because the directions I give the guys I sponsor, I give them because I don't want to go to funerals. I hate funerals. And we got a tremendous fellowship. If you ever come to Las Vegas, we have a group called Connect the Dots. We have 4 open meetings a week and 5 hospital and institution meetings every week. We are a fellowship on fire in action. We run in a pack of I got new guys. We got guys in my home group 52 years sober to 52 hours sober. And we run together and we transmit this message. We try to put it ahead of our own personalities because that's what's important here. It's not who I am here, it's what I do here. And if you're new, welcome. This is a great time to get sober. In about another 2 weeks, if you're new, there's going to be hordes of people coming into AA. And you're going to be an old-timer who can show them the way. Thanks for listening.